Welcome, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, as you are watching this particular presentation, which is going to be short and specific to a certain topic. Yes! Please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube and search for Brenda Kasuva for you to be able to get more updates as we continue to grow that particular channel. If we have not met yet, my name is Brenda Kasuva, and we're able to connect online, search for Brenda Kasuva, website brendakasuva.com, or you can go to Training with Brenda. My topic today is going to be on leaseholds. You will get questions as you are working towards passing your real estate exam. And in review, for those of you who might be researching on getting into a real estate career, there's going to be a course that you're going to take. For example, in Maryland, that's 60 hours. And once you're done with that 60 hours, there's going to be an exam that will have two parts. One part is going to cover general definitions that are going to be the same no matter where you are in the country. And then we're going to have state-specific law questions. What I'm referring to is the one that's going to cover on the national, the general side, where the definition of a leasehold is going to be the same no matter where you are in the country. We're going to get into leasehold estates, differentiating those, some lease clauses, and some payment options. Oops, I noticed a misspell on my slides. Let's start off with the definitions. Estate in land has two types. You have freehold and you have leasehold. In another class, you're going to be covering estate in land and get into freehold, fee simple, and life estate. For today's class, we're focusing on the right-hand side where we're talking about leaseholds. Let's review. Estate in land has two types. In terms of freehold is indefinite. It goes on and you either have fee simple or life estate for another day. And then you have leasehold, which is defined time frame. You have a lease, how long it's going to be. That's what we're going to get into and talk about the four different types that are presented there. We then start with the definition of estate in land. Estate in land is how long do you have the rights for you to be able to occupy this particular space. So you have the degree, the extent, and the quantity of rights held by you in this property. How long do you own it? How do you own it? How much of it? And what rights do you have? So that's the generic concept of estate in land. When we're getting into estate in land, in review again, you have two types. Freehold goes on. Some of you have houses. When you own the house, it goes on. If you're not with us, they will look at your will. They will look at your heirs. If you own it with someone else as a joint tenant, it passes on to them. Leasehold as a specified time frame. So we're going to be focusing on leasehold, which has a specified time frame. Under leasehold, there are four types. Four types. Remember again here, we're just reviewing for you to be able to get through passing the real estate exam, not really going into the lawyer side and explaining everything. Let's start with the first one, estate for years. Simply put, estate for years. Most of us, when we hear the word years, we get stuck on that. And maybe there's a purpose why this one is called estate for years, maybe to trip us up. But estate for years has a beginning date and an end date. Beginning date and an end date, no notice. Estate for years, beginning date, end date, no notice required. So let me present to you this way. Majority of us, if you've ever leased a space somewhere, It has a beginning date and an end date. If you're leasing an apartment, you started on February the 1st, 21, and it ended February the 1st, 22. Prior to that, you might have received notice asking you, hey, what do you want to do? So you were given the option to either renew it for another year or to go month to month. Estate for years has a beginning date and an end date, no notice required. I use the example of years for the apartment. Let me use another example. Some of you are going out this weekend and you've already booked your hotel stay. That is an estate for years. You're checking into the hotel, Four Seasons, and you're going to check in tomorrow at 3 p.m. And then you're going to check out on Sunday by noon. That's an estate for years. It has a beginning date, an end date. On Sunday, you just check out, Four Seasons good, you build, and what have you. That's an estate for years. Beginning date, end date, no notice required. The second one is going to be period to period. Periodic tenancy is what you switch over on the apartment example to where maybe now you're what, month to month. Periodic tenancy does not really have an end date. This one keeps going on. So this is a subscription. And this is where, shameless, please go ahead, check us out on YouTube, Brenda Kasuva, and subscribe. So subscription, this is your month to month type of a lease, which is again for a period of 30 days, or you might say, Four Seasons, I don't want to check out on Sunday. I'm going to check out on Monday. So now it's one day. It has now converted to Monday, and you can continue staying there until you tell them, nope, I want to check out. Periodic tenancy has a beginning date. It continues like a subscription, your Netflix, your Amazon, and so on. It continues renewing until someone says stop. Periodic tenancy keeps going on until someone says stop. Then we have estate at will. The word will is what I'm going to focus on. Estate at will is where this is the example we give of a nanny, a caretaker, children, maybe they are moving back to the house. We don't know how long it's going to take for them to get their down payment or money that they need in order for them to move out. We don't know how long we need the caretaker. We don't know how long we need the nanny. So the sound of all of these examples is what? We never really had specifics. You moved in, you're paying rent, whether it is money or it's a barter exchange for you living there. And there's no really specifics in terms of when you're going to move out. This one is special because when one of the parties passes away, this one does terminate. So this one is stayed for will, no specifics in terms of end date. The one, no specifics as to how long you're going to be there. And this one does terminate once one of the parties is no longer with us. Estate as sufferance, somebody is suffering and that's a landlord. So tenant got into the property with a legit lease, but now the lease has expired and the tenant is still living there. This is where the landlord has the opportunity for them to see whether they want to evict the person or to sign up for a new lease. Let's review a couple of things. In terms of definitions, one thing that surprises people when I am teaching this particular course is covenant of quiet enjoyment. This is usually in the clause of your lease, and it is understood from the landlord and the tenant that they cannot just show up anytime they want. The landlord is only showing up when you call them to come and fix something, or it is something that is already put in writing in the lease that, for example, they're going to be showing up every quarter. That's different. Here, covenant of quiet enjoyment. Let the tenant enjoy the property without any interruptions. We now switch over to the other types of lease in terms of payment. So we've covered leasehold in terms of how long and how they terminate with estate at will, periodic tenancy, estate at sufferance, and estate for years. Now we talk about the leases in terms, what type of a lease do you have in terms of payment? We have gross, net lease, and percentage lease. Hopefully the images are helping you a little bit in terms of giving you a clue. Gross is one that is going to be, I summarize that as a flat fee with fixed rent. This is where you're paying your rent. Yes, you're still responsible for your electricity, for example. This is a flat fee, fixed rent, but the landlord is taking care of everything else, the property taxes, the insurance, and the maintenance of the property. So that's what some of us do have when you're renting an apartment. Gross flat fee. Some of you, the hint could be your gross income. This is what you're making. Yes, we know that they're going to be taxes. So gross lease simplification. This is how much some of you say as your gross income, the totality of what you expected to get paid when you're working for an individual. Net lease is one, if you're bringing in the gross income and the net lease, we know that if you're an employee, for example, they're going to deduct what your taxes and your benefits. So net lease is where, in terms of payment, hopefully I'm not confusing you, in terms of payments on a lease, this is where, especially on the commercial side, if you are employed, the space that you're going to go into work, probably they have a net lease to where your employer is paying a flat fee, and then they have to pay something to contribute towards the landscaping. In my area in Maryland, to remove the snow and so on. So they're contributing towards the outside. If the parking needs to be paved, the landlord is going to contribute to that. So flat fee plus expenses in terms of maintenance, that's the net lease. The last one, simply put, just use the words percentage lease. Percentage lease is one that is rent plus the percentage, a flat fee, $3,000. And then they're going to do a certain percentage based on how much income is produced as a result of you leasing that particular space. And this is where you will engage with some math questions on this part of the conversation. So percentage lease, flat fee plus a percentage of the gross income produced while you are using that particular space. Let's review more definitions. Ground lease. This is something special in the state that I am located, which is in Maryland. That is foreign to some people who haven't done business in Maryland or heard of this. Ground lease is where someone else owns the rights of that particular ground, or what some of us, when you're taking the class, again, this is all about you passing the exam and us connecting the dots a little bit, is what we call surface rights. Someone else has the surface rights in terms of you own the building, the structure, but then someone else has the rights to the surface. Some of you in other states, you might be familiar with like a solar farm where you are renting for somebody to put the solar panels on the ground. That is a surface rights that you are given to someone else. In Maryland, we get to enjoy what is called ground rent. It existed back in the 1800s to where I own the building and then someone else owns the ground. They're not responsible to maintain it. They just have the surface rights. And I need to pay them. In Maryland, it's twice a year. And it's generally, we've seen $90 to about $210 for the year, split into two, and I need to pay that. So that is a ground lease. Ground rent, for those of you who have a license or will get a license in Maryland, you will get familiar with that particular term. So that is ground lease. When it comes to eviction, there are two types. You have the actual eviction, which is coming from the landlord. This is what majority of us are familiar with. The tenant breached the lease. Tenant is overstayed their lease, so now the landlord has to evict them. The terminology of it is actual eviction. Guess what? You, the tenant, also have rights. So you, the tenant, if the landlord doesn't do what they promised to do or based on the lease, and my images hopefully help. The first one is where the heat or the electricity bill or gas bill is included in your rent, and the landlord isn't making payments to the utility company. You've made them aware of it and they still haven't done anything. So now you are terribly cold and shivering and you can no longer stay there. So now it's the landlord who has breached the lease, or there's water, you've reported it and now you have mold and people are getting sick, or you have rodents and pests. Again, the landlord is made aware, but they're not taking any action. This is where you're able to either sue for damages or to vacate the premises. This is what is referenced to as constructive eviction.